we have to talk about, obviously, the unfolding crisis in the Southeast after Hurricane Helene dumped 40-ton gallons. 40-ton gallons. I don't know. This was a Guardian article, but that's a lot. Of rain, 40-ton gallons of rain. I think that's a measurement we abide by. I don't know. Here's another one.
It's one we should be metric, but
Exactly.
that's another day.
It's enough rain to fill Lake Tahoe in California. That shit is deep. 140 are dead, actually. Many more are missing, obviously affecting the Carolinas, Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee. And now there's another hurricane coming up, Hurricane Kirk. Here is just a little footage from Asheville, North Carolina, that you sort of get a sense of the devastation.
Whole house.
So there's just a house floating in the middle of, there's not even a street, just a house going by. Fully upended. I mean, I can't, as you can hear them say, like a whole house. I mean, the devastation is just wild. Roads are completely washed out. Hence what I said about the mule. There's actually, a horse, a little mule train carrying supplies to people in need. Because again, vehicles cannot get there. Climate Defiance, who does incredible work, said to that in response to that video I just played of a house floating down, says literally, fuck your online petitions. Homes are floating through the streets like soda bottles. Communities are getting wiped off the map. We are at the precipice. Only radical action will save us. Don't you see? Don't you understand? And it's something that especially Republicans are trying to not understand, but Democrats only do a lesser extent, a little bit lesser. So Donald Trump went on Truth Social and he basically started blaming Democrats. He says that the Democrats have basically, he calls a photo that Vice President Kamala Harris put out speaking with the FEMA director, called it fake and staged from someone who has no clue what she is doing. They have sacrificed Americans to an open border, and now they've left Americans to drown in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama, and elsewhere in the South. Under this administration, Americans have always come last. He then followed up by saying he doesn't like the reports he's getting about the federal government and the Democratic governor of the state going out of their way not to help people in affected areas, MAGA. So he's blaming Democrats for this kind of destruction. Even though he himself is like, climate change? It sounds like more waterfront property to me.
Right. I mean, I don't even know. Like, I know that we have to engage with how he reacts to this, but it's so like, of course he's saying that. And what I'm more curious about, and what I don't know enough about really is like, what is being done to provide meaningful assistance. I have a friend, Margaret Killjoy, who bailed on her mid-book tour to go provide mutual aid because there is a need for it. I don't know. I mean, this is, it's like climate change is obviously at the forefront, and the safety of the people who are affected are at the forefront, but it just intersects with so many issues that I feel like Democrats are not eager to engage with either. Something that immediately occurred to me and was echoed by, I produce a show that's based here in LA called We the Unhoused, that was created and hosted by a formerly unhoused man named Theo Henderson. And so for the last stretch of months, we've been talking constantly about the Grants Pass Supreme Court decision, which essentially makes it illegal to be unhoused. And so anytime and how, how housing insecurity and unhoused issues are completely intersected with climate change. I mean, how many people are we going to see displaced from this tragedy? And we have just passed Supreme Court legislation that makes it illegal to be displaced and not be able to afford to get back on your feet. So what I'm curious about is, first of all, I just have been like horrified and frustrated by, every political party's unwillingness to really engage with this really consequential Supreme Court decision. I've barely
Yeah.
seen it talked about
Oh, not
outside
on
of
the
activist
media.
circles.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
We've spoken about it here. Our producer Paige has written extensively about it, and it is so consequential. And you're absolutely right, especially for these issues and just climate refugees. You know, I mean, when you say this is, you know, when you say housing crisis, when you say climate crisis, that's not like that's those aren't words. Those aren't slogans.
right.
It means people are actively being evicted, kicked out on the streets today, tomorrow at a rapid pace and displaced by the market and by climate change, both of which are preventable and both of
Yes.
which can be reined in. So I'm really glad you're bringing up that. I did just want to be a little lib about this and share the fact sheet from the whitehouse.gov and show that they have approved, they did approve beforehand, actually, major funding to the area, but that they are now looking into, hang on, here it is. Major disaster declaration allowed survivors to immediately access funds and resources to jumpstart their recovery. FEMA assistance in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina may include a one-time $750 payment to help with essential items. And that's very little, but still. After registering for disaster assistance, and individuals may also qualify to receive disaster-related financial assistance to repair storm-related damage to homes and replace personal property, etc. It's also, however, been pointed out that, that, you know, our funding is going to a genocidal country like Israel,
Yeah.
funding, you know, billions of dollars worth that actually FEMA needs and
Yeah.
has
I
the
mean,
budget
$750, I
shortfall.
mean, is not nothing, but like, what is that going to accomplish if your house is floating down the street? What does
Totally.
$750 do?
No, and also if you get like, "Oh, apply for assistance," it's like, "No, no, 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 no." Like,
How?
we
With
need,
what?
yeah, where? With what computer? Connected to what server? Like, phone lines are still down, you know, people this is just wild to me. I mean, at least it is a start. I mean, I just think it does it is hard to have to focus on the Republican response as well, because I agree with you. The Democrats do not have a plan either, especially not reining in climate change. In the pace that we need to go. I've said this before. I said it last week. I feel like sometimes Republicans are actually more honest about it because they're like, all they want is socialism and changing the economy and no. And it's like, no, that's what we need. That's like literally how we survive is if you have more local supply chain, if you support, community energy grids that are not like linked to statewide grids, like that is how we survive is socialism. Hate to break it to you. Like, look at Naomi Klein, all of her writing not only speaks to what you said about shock doctrine shit, basically, like how are we gonna,
Sure.
this whole area could be remade if, Asheville will look very different, after this, who knows? I did just want to point out, Jamie, that Trump says there's no assistance being offered, even though there is, and he has he's taken it,
Yeah.
he's upon
What?
himself to set up a
Where is
GoFundMe.
this going? Where is this going? Do we
This
know?
so this is on behalf of President Donald Trump. Basically hereby establishes this Hurricane Helene Victims Fund, Trump authorized. It's already got this was as of yesterday, like $1.36 million. Just the rubes. Like, I would love it if your podcast empire and mine could, I mean, I would never swindle people like this, but imagine just being able to fucking just swindle, like having such loyal followers.
It's
They would give you this money and trust you with it.
1.5 mil. Like, it's just, I don't know. I mean, and I don't mean to say that I think that, the Democrats are just as bad for environmental policy as a Republican government is. I know that's not true. It's more just a frustration that, I don't know. So often it's like, well, we're offering $750. And
Yeah.
so like, I just get, I don't know, frustrated.
It's not enough. It's enough to have people like me, let's be real, be like, there is a difference. Donald Trump usually blames states like California for their own natural disasters. But it's not enough to be, I think, a countervailing force against authoritarianism, fascism, like doomsday fucking handsmaid tale scenarios, that to be like, no, 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 we really have a plan around climate. Like, yes, the Inflation Reduction Act was important, but this is still small reforms that sort of eat around the edges of a massive problem. And I do just want to point out, just because we're on the topic and I thought it was interesting, I was going to bitch about this. So I love Climate Defiance. They're the ones who've basically bird dogged Joe Manchin. They will step to any person, Democrat, Republican, about their fossil fuel complicity. But they have endorsed Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
And of course, lo and behold, in response to them tweeting out, this is an emergency, you get a bunch of mostly Green Party Jill Stein folks who are like, and yet you endorse the fracking queen. Oh, the audacity to post this right after endorsing Kamala Harris. Oh, radical action, endorsing Kamala Harris, and then their blue check marks, meaning they're probably bought. Like, I don't trust a fucking blue check mark
They're
at
just,
all.
I mean, they might not even be a living person. We don't know.
Right. But I just think it is, if you think we have 4 years to fuck around, you're sorely mistaken. And that is, again, if Kamala Harris squanders that, I mean, it is on people like Climate Defiance, again, who've gone after Democrats and who continue to do so. It's just like, don't be like, oh, actually, Trump is just the same. It's like, bitch, you know that's not true.
Yeah, it's not true. I mean, and I feel like it's, again, that age-old thing where, I'm not going to come after Climate Defiance. They're doing a million times more than I am to address and educate people on this issue. I don't know. I mean, it is like this. It's just it's the full body chest tightening of being at this point in an election cycle, where I mean, I think we've seen it across so many different small situations. Like, no matter who you are, you've encountered this. Well, but now's not the time to criticize an opponent.
Yeah.
And while still being able to carry the nuance of, and I recognize that this opponent will do far more. It's just,
or will do less harm. Let's put it in that way, for right now in this moment. But yeah, it's like we can walk and chew gum.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, but can we, the
internet can't, that.
No, that's why I have a job. That's why we both have a job. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like leading with this is like, well, what are the reports coming from that are on the ground? What are people like? That's why I really love. I love Margaret Killjoy anyways, but that she's going to the site because she happens to be nearby. She's able to, and just to assess, like, what are the needs of the people who are directly impacted, and let's start there. I really,
and this has happened.
That reporting is happening.
Yes, and I love Margaret. Everybody check out Cool People Who Did Cool Stuff. Margaret is a radical, and it just documents radical history. I've been on the show multiple times. And what I was going to say is I do think these are moments, like, if there is any hope, it's that these moments, and I know that from Hurricane Sandy in New York, which I wasn't there for, but my brother was, and he was just like, the solidarity from the community, what the new bonds being formed, that is this silver lining in what is otherwise such a devastating, disaster that can be avoided. And then you see, New Orleans and everything that came out of that, although the fucking FBI undermined one of the main hurricane relief organizations and had a fucking infiltrator in it. Excuse me. We could talk about that another time. Because they were so threatened by a grassroots rebuilding organization, they had to fucking peel someone off and have them go undercover and basically destroy the organization. Right? Blah, blah, blah. Long story.
I mean, something that I find very comforting in learning such horrific climate news, and that we unfortunately will probably continue to hear about, is a book that I forget who introduced it to me years ago, but Rebecca Solnit's A Paradise Built in Hell,
Oh yeah.
which is just a whole collection of stories about how it does appear to be human nature to provide mutual aid to your community when you're in crisis. And
Yeah.
so there is a pressing need to demand from whoever is in power. And yes, Republicans should not be in power, but whoever is in power should have the appropriate pressure put on them. And that it is functionally human nature that aren't, people who aren't power hungry fucking freaks to help people who are in need. There are so many examples of that. And I don't have any reason to believe that the people of Asheville will be any different, or people affected, at all. But, that just brings us back to like, well, who can you depend on to act in your best interest?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we need a way more than, again, just a $750 or applying for assistance. It should be universal. It should be immediate. There should be preparedness. And most importantly, we need to fucking transition off of fossil fuels now. Keep it in the ground now. These storm surges do not have to be this strong. Asheville, for example, is fucking 400 miles inland. What the fuck? So we can turn it around.
Yeah.
But for now, we need to actually help people in the ways they need, as you were saying. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.